Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Stu Whiffy. Joining me always, Blake Harrison. How are you today, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm cold. It's cold in my house. I'm next to like a little fireplace, and I'm a bit nippy.
I'm in the little echoey office today, but I've realised the benefits to coming in this office. It's a tiny little office that I literally rent just so I can get out the house and not drive myself mad. And but what I do of a morning now when I go into the office is I'm like, right, kids, and I ask the family, what do you want charging? I just think I'm going to utilise all their electricity and charge up every device I've got. And I literally have got the heating on, which you can probably hear in the background because it is cold. And but yeah, it's like I'm toasty now. You've got a nice toasty day in the office.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
I love the idea of you just having so many random devices. Like a watch from when the kids were 12, they had this like little smarty watch type thing. Like,
I've got their Nintendo DS's over there charging.
Yeah. Oh, Scrooge McWhiffin.
Oh, don't. Well, look. Before we get on to UFC, I just want to ask you. I don't know if you watched it, but I had a really nice time Saturday night, and I had a couple of mates just sort of pop round, and I was like, "Do you want to stick about and I'll get the boxing?" And they were like, "Good shout." So, did you watch, or have you seen any highlights of the Eubank Jr. Liam Smith fight?
You know me, mate. I didn't even know it was happening. I knew nothing about any of it. I'm just not interested. But I think I know the result because someone must have retweeted or liked something that Chris Eubank Sr. said. So I think I know that Chris Eubank Jr. lost.
He did, yeah. And,
yeah. So, yeah. I mean, talk to me about it as much as you want. I don't massively care, but by all means, maybe the listeners care.
No. I mean, that thing that Chris Eubank Sr. said, I don't know what it is, but yeah, essentially he was correct. His son lost. Okay, moving on. UFC.
No, you must have brought it up for a reason. Like you must have had a thought on it.
It was
something.
really good. I got pulled.
Was it a good fight? Was it good?
Yes, it was, and I got pulled into the hype because they were going at it. And
I didn't know there was any hype.
Lots, and like. So Smith's got lots of brothers that have all been champs as well. It's a big fighting family out of Liverpool. Seem like really nice people. And Eubank Jr., who I'm a fan of, he was meant to have fought Conor Benn. Obviously, there's so much hype around the Eubank Benn potential fight.
Yes.
You know, and
I just remembered why I know something. I think Liam Harrison put something up about. Is it Conor Benn's response to Eubank losing, maybe? When Conor Benn, because obviously, I don't know if he's been suspended or just found... I don't know what the situation is with him and the performance-enhancing drugs.
I think that might still be up in the air. I don't want to comment properly because I don't know.
But I think it was Liam Harrison, it might not have been, said something derogatory about Conor Benn because... Conor Benn, in the scandal he's in, was then enjoying the fact that Chris Eubank Jr. lost.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, don't do that. Like, you've got your own shit to handle, mate. Handle your drug situation. So that's, I think, why I know a little bit about it.
Well, the fires lit up between Eubank Jr. and Liam Smith, and it got horrible. The press conference got really horrible. Eubank Jr. making accusations that Liam Smith had cheated on his wife. It was like really horrible stuff.
Ooh.
And so needless
any
to say,
proof?
And like
any proof?
I've not seen anything. Like I don't.
No?
Maybe Google it. But
all right.
But it was like literally the gloves were off, and it was like, oh blimey, this is a bit horrible. And
they went bare knuckle.
Yes, yeah. But then obviously when the
gloves are off, they went bare knuckle in the ring.
Like come alive. The place was full of you know, the Scousers were there en masse, and it was a racket. And I think it's probably safe to say Liam Smith was on paper the underdog. But it was a really good sort of few rounds of boxing, and then an incredible like shot just put Eubank to sleep, and he got up, and I think the ref could have stopped it at that point, but he let him fight on, and But yeah, do you know what? Speaking of Liam's, and you mentioned former guest of the show, Liam Harrison, did you see what he posted at the beginning of the week? Sorry, at the beginning of the weekend.
I guess not. No, what was it?
I really hope this isn't a figment of my imagination, because I think he's since removed the post. But he put up a fight poster of a fight that was being discussed, which he could no longer do, against Floyd Money Mayweather.
Mayweather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said his injury meant that he couldn't even box. He thought he'd be able to box, and he couldn't. But he was being approached in, like, I'm assuming, an exhibition bout against Floyd Mayweather.
I mean,
oh man, gutted for him. He would have made loads of that.
That's what he said. He said it would have set him up for life.
Mate, I hope he gets it back if his knee sorts itself out. Liam was such a nice guest, and
man,
some great stories. You kind of think someone with that kind of story, someone that's put the effort and the time into his career in the manner in which he has. He's been around a long time now, and his stories are crazy. And what he did, like leaving and immigrating to like Thailand when he was 18, just because he lost the fighting illegally at like 14 or 15 as a pro. Like, that's the kind of person you're like, oh, I want you to get your payday because you seem like you deserve it. You know what I mean? You've really put the graft in.
Yeah.
And I know it's a sport where everyone puts the graft in, but he really put the graft in.
And he's a savage. Yeah. He's so good to watch. And so go check out that episode in our back. It was a really good chat with Muay Thai legend Liam Harrison. And hopefully the knee heals and he gets to make that fight somewhere down the line against Floyd Money Mayweather. What a lovely way to kind of, start to kind of close off your career with a nice big payday against arguably the greatest. Right. Anyway, we can park up the boxing and the Muay Thai and we can talk all things UFC. So this Saturday just gone was UFC 283 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And we saw the cream of the Brazilian fighters on the card. How are we doing this one, Blakey boy? Are we starting at the top?
We might as well. Oh, that's what we usually do, isn't it?
Start at the top with former guest of the show, Jamal Hill.
Former guest of the show. Like heavyweight champion of the world. Is it a coincidence he was on the show only a month and a bit ago? I don't know. Make your own, calculations about that. Come to your own conclusions. But I think basically we were a big part of it. That's all I'm saying.
I think so.
I think we really helped him out.
They bleeped out a little bit of the post-fight speech. Maybe that's when he acknowledged us.
I think it was. Yeah. I think actually that's what it is. The name of our podcast is just so, the MMA fan podcast. You can only say it on YouTube. It's bleeped out of everything. So they just had to bleep it out. God, can't let them say that. Too controversial. There were such mavericks of the MMA world. No, what a performance though. Wow.
It's hard to know where to start with this because as much as you want to talk about the performance he put in and how much of that emotion that had driven that come out afterwards, only to be met by fighting one of the nicest people in MMA that put on one of the bravest performances, and then also doubled down on the emotion afterwards by retiring. I mean, first of all, let's credit Jamal Hill on an incredible performance. He started. I think he asserted himself right from the off and dominated that fight.
It was the takedown defense that really surprised me. I mean, he was so good. The other thing is, I don't know if this has been spoken about enough. Jamal Hill took this on short notice. Now, in a sense, you could say that Glover did, but Glover was training for Yuri, and then he knew that he would defend the belt. But then there was that whole thing of like he would take on Yan, but not Ankalaev and all that kind of stuff. So maybe he relaxed for a bit, but he was in like a full-on camp. Jamal had probably only just started training properly for Anthony Smith when this fight came his way. It was just after like Christmas, all that stuff. Or was it just before Christmas? I can't remember now. And so you're like, Jesus, this is to do this on short notice. And for the one that everyone knows that Jamal's got power in his hands, he's got good crisp boxing, and we saw the head kicks that I didn't realize he quite had that as much in his locker as well. but everyone knew his striking was good. There was never any questions over his striking. There were big questions over his grappling and his takedown defense.
Yeah.
And didn't he answer them?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and again, on short notice, it just makes you think. I think he's only 31 years old. That as the heavier weight classes, you know, they do age a bit better. Their prime is a bit later. All that kind of stuff. He could just get better and better. And this is probably the best performance of his entire career.
Yeah,
So
so.
he didn't just get a knockout like what he did against Jimmy Crute or Johnny Walker. He beat Glover from pillar to post, and it was like 50-44 across the board.
Yeah.
Not 50-45, which is amazing in itself. 50-44 across the board. And I think there's potential for other 10-8 or maybe even a 10-7 round in there somewhere as well. So, yeah, I mean, that was incredible. And then the scenes afterwards of him, he just lost it. Like he couldn't stand up for a while. He was bawling his eyes out. It's like his coach was holding him up. And you just see what it means to him. It's moments like that I just think are really special when you're watching this sport and you see that sacrifice all come to fruition. And, you know, they've been striving for this moment their whole career and they finally achieve it. And just like, it must be such a crazy feeling.
Absolutely. You could tell he thought, I've probably just about made enough money tonight to be able to take all my kids to the cinema and get them like sweets. It's but you know, like you say, he literally collapsed into his, you know, into one of his corner's arms, and it's just so good to see when you see things like that, because you see the vulnerability and you see, you know, you see the emotion that you know, when you see these people and you look at Glover's face and you think that guy's just done that, but you can tell that, like, you know, these ain't haters. These are good people that are absolutely, the sacrifice and the discipline that they put in to getting that belt put around their waist is you know, people could never understand what they put into that. It's otherworldly to people like us. And it was apparent how much that meant, and it was beautiful to see, and the respect between them as well. In between rounds, there was, you know, and in the lead up to it as well. You know, I'm sure Jamal can quite easily get caught up in some trash talk with other fighters, but with Glover, it just seemed like it was a very respectful sort of relationship between them two, and afterwards as well. That was so apparent. It was lovely to see, and I mean, I just want to talk about Glover's. I mean, God knows what that guy's head's made out of, because them kicks, like, he got wobbled once, didn't he? But it was like not to the point where, like, I don't know, and at his age as well, the resilience and how he managed to kind of just sharpen up and come back. It was like, where's he pulling this from? And then cuts.
It's like his chin's got better as he's got older, which just defies all logic. I don't know how that's possible, because he's been knocked out before. I mean, I know Rumble Johnson, you know, God rest his soul, like hit like an absolute truck, but Rumble just knocked him clean out. I think, did Gustafsson finish him as well back in the day?
Jamal Hill's chin on his head. Like, you know, and it didn't finish him. It didn't stop him. It was just, unbelievable. And them cuts above his eyes were brutal. Obviously, they weren't on his eyelid. They were on the eyebrow.
No.
And to be honest, if a doctor would look at them cuts and said, you know, in the third or fourth round, no more, I wouldn't have been unhappy. It was like, because I think at that point, I couldn't see. But you can't write off Glover Teixeira. You know, but
well, I mean, I thought that fight could have been stopped, to be honest. And then in the fifth round, he came out and he got the takedown. And you were like, oh my God.
Before that, I don't know if it was Mark, wasn't it? But former guest of the show, Mark Goddard, wasn't it? That ref that one. I don't know if he went over and said something to Glover before the last round.
I think he did.
And all you heard was, let's go, baby. It was like madman, absolute savage. And yeah, I mean, and what I loved was, because we'll get on to Moreno and the Brazilian crowd, the beautiful moment that Glover said to the audience, I've seen that you've thrown beer and popcorn at the last winner, show some respect to Jamal Hill. And I thought that was, you literally just got goosebumps like thinking about that. It was such a wonderful thing, and like
I made a note of that as well.
What an incredible,
what a class act.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he said, I don't think they actually did walk back together, but he said he's walking out with me.
Yeah,
I mean, that one, what an unbelievably classy, wonderful human being. Just recognize what happened before. This man's beat the shit out of him for the last 25 minutes. And then he goes, no, show him respect.
Yeah.
I will walk out with him so you guys don't throw your beers all over him.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get it's just, that's the thing about this. That's one of the moments in the sport that I wish people outside of the sport saw and knew more about.
Absolutely.
That level of class and respect that I just, I'm that's what I want to hear all day. Not the other shit that we've unfortunately have to speak about recently in some of our latter episodes. And this is what I wanted to talk about.
I love that Glover acknowledged how tough he was, to the point where he's like, I've got to retire because I'm too tough for my own good.
Yes. And you know what? That shows such a level of intelligence, because I don't think I've ever heard a fighter say that. I don't know. Like, fighters that are too tough for their own good are usually just going, no, I want to go out on my shield, man. No, I am too tough for my own good. And so I should bloody retire, because otherwise long-term health damage is going to be severe. I mean, his fight with Yuri and then his fight with Jamal, I mean, a definite Hall of Famer, because not only has he been a UFC champion and been around for such a long period of time, but he's also arguably one half of the greatest ever fight of all time. I mean, I know that there's some corkers out there, but Glover versus Yuri is up there as one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting fight you will ever see. And the fact that he's a part of that and been a champion, as far as I'm concerned, he's a definite Hall of Famer. And I think he'll be around for a while, because obviously
he's a cornerman now, isn't he?
He's a cornerman, and one of his proteges is the middleweight champion of the world, Alex Pereira, who I've seen a few memes and things on social media of him eyeing up Jamal Hill. Because, I mean, Pereira's not making middleweight for long. No. He's got to move up to light heavy. So he's just eyeing up Jamal Hill like, okay, you beat my sensei. Now I'm going to mess you up.
Jamal Hill.
That'd be a great fight. Pereira, Jamal Hill.
They're all going to be lining up to fight him now, aren't they? And I see a post from Yuri saying, congratulations, but I'm coming. And I mean, how long Yuri's out for, we don't know. But,
I hope he's not. Well, so that leads us to, where's Jamal's first title defense then? Not as in location, like who is it? Who's it against?
Is it Ankalaev?
But do you think that maybe Ankalaev has to rematch Jan? I mean, I agree. I think Ankalaev has got a really good shout, but the light heavyweight division is just all fucking over the place at the moment. You could easily say to Blachowicz and Ankalaev, look, Dana didn't like your last fight, so you better rematch and prove one of you is way better than the other one, so you get a title shot.
And in the meantime,
is still injured, I think. Yuri is obviously injured. Anthony Smith was meant to fight Jamal Hill. Well, he came in at the 205 limit, but not championship weight, so he was but then again, I don't know what the order of the weigh-ins were. If Jamal and Glover weighed in before him, then what? Of course you're going to go and have a donut. Right? You're not going to be like, oh, I've got an hour to make weight.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to fight anyway. Jamal and Glover have already made weight. Just go and have a fucking donut, mate. Go. You're in Brazil. I'm sure there's some lovely grub out there that you can go and have. Go and eat some food. So I don't know what his payment situation would be, because he's gone to make weight and missed a weight, and usually you get paid for being the backup. So I don't know what the crack would have been with that. But Anthony Smith was supposed to fight Jamal Hill in March. That fight got robbed from him and taken away. He's owed a fight. If he does get a fight in March, who's it against? And could he fight Johnny Walker really quick? Just get a win. And if he gets a win, does he go, look, I was supposed to fight Jamal in March. Ankalaev should rematch Jan. Yuri's injured. Rakic is injured. I'll go for the belt. Now, I don't think that necessarily should happen. I think I'd rather see Ankalaev fight for the belt. But fucking crazy things are happening in that division. It's sort of anyone's game.
I think Ankalaev, like his fight style, doesn't excite fans, and I think that last performance and the fact that last performance was highlighted by the UFC so much, and obviously we've seen what the outcome of that has been. I think it might be a tougher road to the shot for Ankalaev than what it should be on paper. Well,
it's already been tough. He's on a very long, until the draw, he was on a very long win streak.
Yeah. But
no, I don't know.
Well, we can talk about Johnny Walker because obviously he had a very easy night in the office, and we'll get to that. But we've got a new UFC flyweight champion.
We do.
He's let's thrown out my prediction for the year out the window.
I mean, I felt sorry for you because you picked Glover and Figgy to win, and I felt like it was stupid.
You waited until I mentioned Figgy to then throw that, and you had Glover in your back pocket as well.
Well, look, my point was, I was going to say it was like Stu Whiffen nil, Father Time 2. It was just, you went for Grandpappy Glover, and then you went for a 35-year-old flyweight champion. It's just, mate, you look at the numbers, man. The age. You've got to pay attention to the age.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, look, Figgy, I think, is a phenomenal fighter, was a good champion, but I just don't like him as much as Moreno. And that's not to say I don't like Figgy. I felt like some of his behavior, maybe in the second, leading up to the second fight.
Oh, that was horrible.
Moreno. Like he shoved him at the weigh-ins, and then there was the whole thing in the third one where him and Henry Cejudo were calling. I can't remember what they were calling, but they were saying like he betrayed Henry and he's like a snake and all that, whatever it is, all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, you're not. I don't really like that. Why are you doing that? And Moreno's just there being really happy playing with his Lego.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, yeah, I'm going to support Moreno. And he's, but both of them as fighters, purely in cage, you're like, these two are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They are brilliant. I have to say, I feel like Moreno pulled away from him in this fight.
100%. 100%.
The judges had it, I think, 2-1. Like in terms of, I think the judges gave it Moreno first round, Moreno third round, and Figueiredo second round. I gave all 3 rounds to Moreno. One judge, I think, gave the third round a 10-8 to Moreno. So if Figgy had carried on, if that fight hadn't been stopped at the end of the third round, I think we would have just continued to see dominance, and Figueiredo would have had to do something very, very special because he was so down on the cards. I think 2-1 on one, but then there was the 10-8 on the other. So I think he would have struggled a bit. In terms of it compared to the other fights they've had, is it the worst one?
I don't know.
Still to say all of them were great fights. We're talking high quality fights before that.
What if he would have hit that shot and wouldn't have sort of stepped back and motioned to the ref?
Yeah.
And that fight would have continued. Would we have got a very, very explosive finish from Moreno?
What going into the fourth round and stuff?
Potentially, yeah. Like
maybe.
Because there was nothing questionable about that shot. Absolutely nothing questionable. And
the Brazilian crowd didn't like the fact that it was the left hook, wasn't it? Where they said like the knuckle caught him in the eye and caused all that horrible damage. But then the right hand after that came and sort of scraped down Figueiredo's left eye, but he wasn't complaining about his left eye. He was complaining about the punch on the right eye. So what he was complaining about was a completely legal shot. There was nothing illegal about that shot. But the Brazilian crowd, partisan crowd, they were very unhappy apparently, and you understand it. But when you look at the replay and you see that he was gesticulating about the eye that got punched, not potentially poked, it's all fine. And Moreno did nothing wrong there.
I think if that fight would have carried on, and I think Moreno would have stopped him I really do. And I thought it's tainted the way that it got stopped, but it was a fantastic shot, and it clearly, it caused a mess of his eye, didn't it? His eye was in a bad way.
Oh,
like
it was definitely in a bad way. It seemed to be. It was a cut under the eye, but it seemed to completely close his eye up.
And no one wants to see that continue. And I know the Brazilian fans probably would have all been gagging to have seen another round, but you put in a compromised fighter out there, and no one wants to see that. But yeah,
did you see Bisping's tweet?
No.
Bisping tweeted, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, "Yeah, good stoppage. No one can fight with one eye," which I thought was really good.
Who was that from?
Bisping.
What's his full name?
Oh, former guest of the show, Michael the Count Bisping.
There we go. There we go.
Former guest of the show, Michael Bisping. Please do check out our chat with former guest of the show, Michael Bisping. Yeah, so it looks, I would argue, Moreno's next fight should be Pantoja.
So they met backstage, didn't they?
Apparently so, and apparently it got a bit aggy.
It wasn't. He said, my next, and Brandon, and he congratulated Moreno, and it all looked very respectful and friendly. And Moreno's just got
I haven't seen it.
He's got that wonderful smile on him, Moreno, and he's just like beaming away, and he's like, shaking his hand, saying, "Thank you very much." And then Pantoja doesn't seem to want to fuck off. And he then sort of almost just goes, "Yeah, but it's, I couldn't really hear a lot of what it was because it was like kind of like phone footage. But it appears like, when? And he's like, "Oh, not right now, man." And he's like, "Well, when?" And in the end, like, you see some officials kind of like, "Come on, mate, out the way," because it just tainted what could have been a nice, respectful, "Okay, am I next? Brilliant. Yeah. Let's get it going." But
it's like the guy's just had a fight, man. Leave him alone. Like,
exactly.
Don't get me wrong. I think Pantoja's great. I've picked him to be flyweight champ by the end of the year, so I kind of want them to make that fight. But I mean, I have to say, Pantoja's beat Moreno before, but I don't think he's beaten this Moreno.
No.
This Moreno gets better and better and better, and it just makes me think I might have picked wrong. Because I was going by the fact that...
Oh, you're in good company, mate.
Yeah, no. But I was going by the fact that I felt like Pantoja's beaten Moreno, I think, once in a proper fight and once on the Ultimate Fighter, in like one of those exhibition Ultimate Fighter fights. So he's kind of, in a way, got 2 wins over Moreno. But this is a different beast, man. This Brandon Moreno looks so good, absolutely everywhere. The fact that he was implementing the wrestling, nearly got caught with a guillotine a couple of times. You had to be careful, but implementing the wrestling, his scrambles are so good. The boxing is so crisp. He's got the that I know you love. He's got all of it, and
YouTube
and
viewers
the
just got a right
treat then. He did less of that in this fight. I was disappointed, but he's so I don't know. I think that's the right fight to make. I think, by all means, go and have your moment. Get your name in there. You have to do that.
Yeah.
But let him have his moment as well. Don't pester him too much. But I think that's the thing. And then Figueiredo is going up to bantamweight. He's had enough of making that flyweight limit. We all know it's been very difficult for him.
When was this announced?
He said it in the cage. He said, "I'm done with flyweight. I'm going up to bantamweight." And I think, that was, I think, the likely outcome of this fight, whether he won or lost potentially anyway, unless he just wanted another payday as the champ. But I think particularly after losing, it completely makes sense that he's gone, I'm done with that now. So if you had to give Figueiredo his bantamweight debut in a few months after that eye's obviously healed up and everything, say kind of in the summertime, who would you give him against? Because I think he deserves a ranked opponent. If you've just been the champ, you don't just go and fight anyone at bantamweight. Probably fight someone in the top 10. So who do you give to Davison Figueiredo?
Peter Yan.
Really? I think they've made Peter Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili.
Has that been announced? I've not seen that.
I've seen Merab putting it up. I don't know whether it's official or not, but I think it is official. So let's say it is. So you can't have.
I don't think Peter Yarn's going to get a title shot anytime soon, and I think
No.
that could be a really big fight, and I think it'd be an exciting fight. What are you thinking?
I'd probably go, and I don't know if this person's booked. I need to maybe look it up. I'd probably go with one of the younger fighters that are trying to make a name for themselves and give them someone that's technically unranked, but is a big name and could help propel them forward if they win. And I'm looking at people like Song Yadong, Ricky Simone, people like that I think might need an extra push.
No. I don't
You
see
don't think?
Figueiredo feeling like he's got to be fighting fighters that are on Ricky Simon in the top 10 yet?
Yeah, Ricky Simone's 10, Song Yadong is 8. So he goes straight into the top 10 of those rankings. I think that's fair.
I think he fights higher than that.
You think you've done Peter Yan.
Where's Yan? 4?
But you 2.
Oh, okay.
So Vera's fighting Sandhagen. That's 4 and 5. Marab might be fighting Peter Yan. That's Marab 3, Yan 2. Sean O'Malley or Henry Cejudo. Aljamain Sterling, I think, has said he's got another bad injury. So I don't know if O'Malley and Cejudo will be fighting each other for like an interim belt or anything. That's not confirmed. But Sterling mentioned he's had an injury. So underneath that, you got Rob Font.
That's what I'm thinking, maybe.
Dominic Cruz, and then Song Yadong, Pedro Munoz. I wouldn't put him up against a legend. Like I wouldn't put him. I mean, I know he's 35, but I wouldn't put him up against a Dominic Cruz or a Pedro Munoz necessarily because I don't think there's that much going on with it. I don't think that the legends of the bantamweight division get much out of it. I think it makes perfect sense to someone like Song Yadong. Because then you go, all right, if you win, you've got a massive name under your belt there, and that can help propel you forward because you've got a big name under your belt. And if Davison Figueiredo wins, you go, you're number 8th in the world. Boom, you're one fight away from a title shot. And I think that's the way I would do it. Like Davison Figueiredo he was in those big fights, but he wasn't a long reigning champion. Like he won the belt against Benavidez. Then he defended it in spectacular kind of quick fashion against, was it Alex Perez? Then he fought Moreno to a draw. And then all he's done then is fight Moreno. And he's lost, then won, then lost. So it's not like he's a champ that's had like a 5-fight defense streak or anything like that. It's not like Adesanya going up in weight before the Pereira fight or Usman going up in weight before the Leon fight. So that's kind of where I am with it. But you know,
Rob Font's penciled to fight Adrian Yanez in April.
Oh yes! Oh God, that's going to be an absolute banger. Cannot wait for that. But again, Adrian Yanez, if he wins, is 6th. You could give him Davison Figueiredo because again, Davison could go 6 if he wins. Yeah. But Yanez, it's still a really big name. So. Yeah, I think definitely some really good, interesting fights for Davison Figueiredo up at bantamweight. Like, I don't think he'll be a champion at that weight class. I think the age and the size and all that stuff will stop him.
Yeah,
but I think he could be a solid top 10 guy. I think he could do all right.
Speaking of people moving up weights, a former bantamweight and friend of the show and former two-time guest of the show, Jack Shaw, has announced that he'll be fighting on the London card, making his featherweight debut. Look forward to that.
Nice.
Right. Well, look, so far it's been a bad night for Brazil. So, next fight to discuss was a good night for the Brazilians. Gilbert Burns.
They had a great start to the main card, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, but they won 3. Absolutely. But we're working backwards. Gilbert Burns looked fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
He just mauled him. I don't think he took a single shot, really. Magny tried his best to survive, but I think it was the head and arm choke in the end. Magny comes up short again against one of those really high-level grapplers like your Damian Myers and the people like that. He just really struggles with them. And I don't know, does he utilize his size, his range and all that well enough? I'm not sure. Maybe should he be someone that kind of like fights behind the jab a little bit better, keeps people at bay. I'm not sure, but he definitely has been struggling against those higher level guys. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was a great fight for him because it was 12th against something like 5th or something like that. So he had a great opportunity. Didn't work out. Burns now is in a weird place. I don't know where Burns goes from here. What do you think happens with Burns?
He's in that kind of awkward spot, isn't he? Let's get the
Yeah.
rankings up.
Well,
What
he's
do you
ranked 5th. Because he called out Colby.
Of course he did. Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to get that fight. I don't think that's a great call out. I just don't think Colby's going to fight anyone really anytime soon. And I think Colby is either looking. I think Colby's got more chance of taking the Hamzat fight, which he's got less chance of winning. But I think Hamzat's a much bigger name. Yeah, I don't know where Burns ends up. Do you know what? That like, I kind of feel like could Burns get a little bit shafted and have to fight backwards again
What, like a Jeff
against
Neal or
someone like,
something like?
well, Shavkat Rakhmonov probably is what he might be up against. I mean, if I'm Burns, I'm not taking that fight.
No,
Jeff
man.
Neal's fighting Shavkat, I think, at the next pay-per-view. No, not next, maybe the one after that. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't know where Burns goes from here. But him versus Bilal, I don't think does anything for either of them. They're just kind of keeping their spots in the top 5, and it's a fight. If Burns, I mean, as we said, he's lost to Usman, he's lost to Hamzat. I think the fight for Burns really is if Leon loses.
He fights Leon.
He fights Leon, and then he'll go like number 1 or whatever it'll be, number 2 behind Hamzat or whatever. So I think if Leon loses, he's got to go and try and get that Leon fight. That's what he'll need. But if Leon wins, then maybe he will just have to fight a Bilal Muhammad. And they'll both have to go, look, we both want to stay in our top 5 spot. Let's just fight each other. And then whatever happens after Leon versus Hamzat, because that will be the fight afterwards. It'll be Usman or Leon fighting Hamzat, I think. Then after that, we'll see what happens, and they could maybe try and find themselves in a title shot, the winner of Bilal and Burns, if that happens. But
yeah,
right now, I think he's looking at not great options unless Leon loses in March, which obviously we're hoping doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's not else. There's not really a lot else on the table there, is there? You look for, and he's fought most of them.
Yep.
And so yeah, it feels very sort of cluttered at the top ends of that top 10, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of movement for Burns anywhere in it. Like you say, the Bilal Muhammad fight, is that an exciting fight for anyone? I'm not super hyped at the thought of that, and like you say, I don't really see that what they're going to do is switch places. It doesn't really have any massive impact on title contention.
It's just sort of keeping your spot, isn't it? Which a lot of the time is what I'm not up for in things like the lightweight division and stuff like that. But from a business point of view, I can understand why they might do that, but I just don't think it does much for either of them, really.
I think, you know, if the Colby fight happens, then I'll be well up for that. But
hey, I'd watch it. I just can't see Colby doing it. But Burns could get in there quick.
Yeah.
If there's anyone in that kind of top 6, 7 that are willing to fight in 3 months' time or whatever, Burns could, because he took 0 damage.
Yeah.
0 damage in that fight. I think, I can't remember which commentator said it. It might have been Cormier or Felder. I can't remember. But they were like, he's taken more damage in sparring than he has in that fight.
Yeah.
And like that just shows you he can come back quick, get another paycheck, keep that win streak going, keep his name relevant. All those things might help him out. And we'll see what happens from there.
Okay. Right.
Shall we go on to, an absolute pasting?
I mean, I think we both in our prediction show said we envisaged Jessica Andrade absolutely destroying Laura Murphy, and that's exactly what she done.
It felt like the easiest pick. I mean, the toughness of Lauren Murphy, like her
Yeah.
and Glover Teixeira, Jesus. I mean, the level of toughness is unbelievable. I heard a stat that is both incredible and really quite worrying for Lauren Murphy fans out there. So apparently, Lauren Murphy in 3 rounds with Jessica Andrade absorbed something like 160 odd significant strikes. Do you know how many significant strikes were absorbed by both Joanna and Zhang Weili combined in their first fight over 5 rounds?
Cool.
190 something. So Lauren Murphy is 30 significant strikes short of what they both combined dealt with in that 5-round war. And she absorbed those 30 less strikes in 3. And from Jessica Andrade, who I would argue maybe hits both harder than both Zhang and Joanna. Jesus Christ. That is a career-changing fight. I mean, Lauren Murphy's no spring chicken, but that is... I don't know if you're the same after that. And I think there's arguments that could be made that the corner could have stepped in.
She was never going to win that fight. That was apparent after the first round. Like, Andrade asserted herself straight away, and the striking was just exceptional. The boxing's just something to behold. And Lauren
the leg
Murphy,
kicks as well, they came out, she was thumping leg kicks.
Lauren Murphy had no answers. And even if she did manage to get hold of her, Andrade just shook her off and straight back up, throwing again. I don't know. I'd love to think that Lauren Murphy's made enough money in the UFC to maybe look at, I don't know, another organisation and some fights that might be not quite as brutal as what she's just experienced. Hopefully she's made enough money. She says she's in the twilight years of her career now. Be good to not to see her take any more damage, because it wasn't pretty seeing what happened at the weekend. It was an absolute destruction of a fighter. And I guess sometimes when fights like that happen, I'm not a fighter, I wouldn't know, but surely the people around you must be going, maybe we have a little look at this now, because you've got your health to think about.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, because I think the worrying thing is, has she earned enough money? She's fought for a title once. She's never been a champion. She's not a fighter that garners a huge amount of public interest. Maybe she hasn't earned enough, and we will see her in the cage again. And that's when you start going, God, if you start, and she's, ranked in the top 10, she's fighting some really good people in that division, and that division's getting stronger and stronger. That flyweight women's division is getting better and better. She could find herself getting, taking more damage, which would be really sad to see. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. But in terms of Jessica Andrade, oh my God. Give me Jessica Andrade versus Zhang Weili, the rematch. I have to see it immediately. Inject it into my veins. I need it right now. I'm not interested in Andrade staying at flyweight. I have no interest in her rematching Valentina Shevchenko. After a performance like that, Andrade doesn't need to fight anyone at strawweight for me. Give her Zhang and do it now. That is the most exciting fight you can make. I'd argue it's be a more exciting fight than Nunes Shevchenko. The build-up wouldn't be as big, I don't think. But the fight itself, Zhang and Andrade 2, would be a more exciting fight than Nunes Shevchenko 3.
Big words.
Big words from a big man. I don't know. That's the fight I want to see.
Every fan would want to see that fight.
How could you not want to see? Yeah. I know the first fight ended so quickly. Andrade went to China in her first title defense. I do believe she might have got better since then. Whatever happened. She got blitzed really quick and it didn't work out for her. I don't see that being the case with the second fight. It's much like Zhang Rose 1. Mm-hmm. Rose head kicked her in the first round, It was like one of the first strikes shown, boom, done. You get the second fight, and it was razor thin. It was so close. It was a fantastic, fantastic fight. I think that's what we get here. I think we get just a really, really good fight. I mean, whether it would actually go the distance, because both these women hit really hard, I don't know. But for sure, it would be a phenomenal fight, I think, between the two of them. And I've just got no interest in anything else. No Lemos, no Rose 3, no, whoever else is knocking about, Rodriguez and all that. No, Jessica Andrade, and do it, whenever Jessica Andrade wants to do it. I mean, like, because I'm sure Zhang will be fit and available for whenever. She dismantled Esparza pretty easily. And I'm sure that Andrade, albeit going 3 rounds, she did it up a weight class, and I don't think she really took hardly any damage, really, even though it was over 3 rounds. I know she got hit a bit, but Lauren Murphy's punches just seemed to bounce off of her, and she was like, I don't care, I'm just going to now hit you with 3. Like, she had no respect for Lauren Murphy's power at all. She just ate it and then gave her something that Lauren, well, she did handle it because she took it and didn't go down, but it was a hard watch. And yeah, absolutely. That's all I want. That's the fight. That is the fight to make.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Totally agree. Former guest of the show, Paul Craig, had a tough gig. Real tough gig.
It was.
I think, watching the weigh-ins, you could see Paul was fired up, as he always is, face paint on. And obviously he'd come off of that loss was the last loss in London? It was, wasn't it?
Yes, to Oezdemir.
Yeah, and was really hoping to see a big win for Paul. He's such a top bloke. And Johnny Walker, we always knew, I think, that Johnny Walker was going to be moving lots, trying to fight at range, because he's got really explosive and throw some interesting strikes, and we know that Paul wants to pull you into his world, and what we've seen is that making that distance up and getting them into your world can be problematic, and we saw that at the weekend. I think Paul got hold of a leg, didn't he? And I think he thought, I'll ride these shots out, maybe like he did with, was it Ankalaev? No, was it Jamal Hill when he was eating the shots? And I think he was like, well, I'll take a few of these, so I'm going to get him. And then by the time I think he'd hoped he would have had him down, he was being stopped because he'd just eaten too many hammer fists. It was the hammer fist at the side of the head, essentially, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, but he also just cracked him with some big, like, that's amazing that he generated that kind of power on one leg.
Yeah.
Like you could see, like, one big shot, and Paul started to buckle already, and it was just like, fuck me, that man's got such power in his hands.
Yeah.
It must be, I feel like Johnny Walker was such a terrible stylistic matchup for Paul.
Massively.
Because Johnny's got the athleticism to bounce around and move around a lot, and he's got the length. He's a really tall, long fighter. So it was going to be really hard for Paul to get in and shoot or clinch up. And, Paul's jiu-jitsu is kind of second to none, really. He's probably got the best jiu-jitsu in the light heavyweight division now that Glover's gone, and maybe Paul would have even wanted to challenge Glover in that respect. But he's not a wrestler. And we've said this before about jiu-jitsu guys. It was the same with Damian Maia and people like that, where they're not Ryan Hall is another one. They're not always the best at actually getting the fight to the ground. Yeah. Once it's on the ground, they are absolutely lethal. I mean, you look at a lot of people think Magomed Ankalaev is probably the number one light heavyweight in the world. He got triangle choked by Paul Craig. Jamal Hill is now the UFC champion at light heavyweight. He got his arm broken by Paul Craig. Like, Paul Craig's no joke. When the fight's on the ground, he can just beat anyone. But it's not easy for him to get it to the ground, and that is where.
And obviously, every fighter's going to be watching those wins over Ankalaev and Jamal and going, I'm staying the fuck away from him, and and let's keep it at range. And obviously, Johnny did not want to go to the ground, so he just started throwing them hammer fists, and that's all she wrote. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Don't know what's next for Paul Craig.
I don't know what's next for Paul. It's
that's 2 losses on the bounce now, to high level competition. Make no mistake, but he's going
Well, he'll
to
be down at 12.
he's going to be taking fights outside the top 10 now, I think.
I think he might be taking fights outside the top 15.
Yeah.
I think there might be some killers coming up, and they look at Paul Craig and go, Paul's got a bit of a name. He does some fun stuff at the weigh-ins. Let's see what so-and-so who's on a 3-fight win streak outside the top 15 does against him. I think that's the position that Paul might find himself in now. Obviously, we love Paul. We're big fans of Paul. He's been on the show. He's, I think, a great guy. And we only ever want to see him do well. But unfortunately, this is it's a tough old business, and you get 2 losses like this, and you're starting to look behind you outside of the rankings at some killers coming towards you now. And that is the situation he's in. On the other hand, Johnny Walker is on a 2-fight win streak.
I want to talk about with Johnny Walker. We saw we heard the stories when Paul come on there about him and Jamal going out partying afterwards when they fought. It was lovely to see a photo of Paul and Johnny backstage. And it wasn't in the car park, which was something I was really pleased to see. That Johnny Walker was allowed to
rough and tumble.
Johnny Walker was allowed to remain in the building. He didn't just get ushered straight out the back door to the car park in his shorts. This time he was allowed to stay in the building, which was wonderful to see. And I mean, big win for Johnny Walker. What do you see is next for him?
So I've been slightly distracted because I've looked at the light heavyweight rankings, and ranked number 7 is Jamal Hill, because obviously it's Monday and they haven't redone their rankings yet. He's just like, from 7 to champion. What a leap. What an unbelievable. I know there's been crazy circumstances that have led to this, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
From 7 to champion. Look, it's just crazy. But for Johnny Walker, he'll now be ranked 9th. I mean, he got a very quick win. Does he, he might have to fight behind him. I know Jimmy Crute's got a fight lined up. Is he fighting Khalil Roundtree? Who's Jimmy Crute fighting? I think he's fighting on the Perth card.
Yeah,
I don't know who he's fighting. I'll have to look that up. But he's upcoming fight. Oh, Alonzo Menafield in Perth is who he's fighting. So, yeah, I mean, he's fighting someone outside the rankings now. So if Jimmy Crute wins, does he fight Johnny Walker? Because Crute gets the opportunity to fight ahead of him. Above Johnny Walker, you've got people like Thiago Santos and stuff like that. But I think he's maybe lost him already. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a difficult one for Khalil Roundtree's not got a fight. I think Khalil Roundtree could potentially fight Johnny Walker. And then you've got Uzdemir, Krylov. It's going to be someone in that kind of 6 to 15 range. And it's just whether the UFC want to give him the opportunity to fight someone in front of him or fight someone behind him. Because when Johnny Walker's on form, he is one of the most fun fighters to watch. He is really great. It's just that recently he's just gone a bit, to want a better phrase, he's gone a bit boring in some of his fights. But the last 2 fights, Spann and Craig, it's been great. That's been really good. So let's hope he keeps that up, keeps that style. I mean, I don't mind him being a little bit more composed and stuff, and not just a reckless wrecking machine like when he first came into the UFC and went on like a 4-fight win streak or whatever it was, and he was just smashing people with flying knees and all sorts of stuff, which was very exciting. And everyone thought, oh, this is the guy to take out John Jones. And then he'd gone up against like a Corey Anderson or something and got smashed. So yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him fight strikers, because I think that's more fun. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it kind of could be a lot of different people in that light heavyweight division. And I think if Anthony Smith wants to get a fight quick and Johnny Walker wants to fight someone ahead of him, that does make a lot of sense, because Anthony Smith is owed a fight. I think the way the UFC did that to Anthony Smith was a bit harsh.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Anthony Smith, I know you got a fight in March, but that your opponent is now fighting for the belt in January. So yeah, sorry, bye. And then Anthony Smith's just there like, okay, don't know whether I'm fighting or not, don't know who I'm fighting. That sucks. So I hope he gets a fight booked in soon.
I want to
in terms of, go on.
Go on, what are you going to say?
I was going to move on to prelims and stuff.
Yeah, I've not seen the prelims. I had limited time yesterday, and so I got up and I watched the main card, and I did watch. I wanted to watch Mauricio's last fight in the UFC. That probably wasn't the road out of the UFC he wanted.
No.
But let's have this right. He ain't got to prove anything to anyone. You know, an absolute legend of the sport, and just incredible. I don't really know what else to say about Shogun. You know, his fights with Dan Henderson, some of the greatest, if not one of my all-time favorite fights. Just an absolute legend. I don't think anybody that listens to this that follows MMA is not going to echo them thoughts of, you know, what a legend he is.
Well, I mean, I might have to say I'm someone that's more heard about the legend of Shogun Rua than watched it for myself. Like I wasn't really watching Pride, and I've heard that like it's the Pride days where Shogun was really like an absolute beast, where he's got like soccer kicks and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, it's phenomenal fights. Was it maybe Vanderlei Silva or someone like that? Like he's got some phenomenal fights in Pride that are the ones that everyone kind of really harks back to. And then he was a UFC champ as well. We came into the UFC, I think, at only 25.
Yeah.
And I think he maybe had a couple of bad losses, but then went on a run and then won the belt, and lost it to John Jones. And there's absolutely no shame in that. So other than that, on the prelims, the Bonfim brothers absolutely smashing it. Ismail Bonfim and Gabriel Bonfim. Ishmael was first, and Terence McKinney keeps his run going of, I think, just like first round carnage. And albeit it wasn't really coming from him as much as it was Ishmael Bonfim. And if you haven't seen it yet, Ishmael Bonfim hit him with this jumping switch knee, and it's quite a sight. McKinney is out immediately and just flops over. It was an amazing knockout. And then a few fights later, I think Ishmael Bonfim's younger brother, Gabriel, comes in, fights Munir Lazez, and locks up a guillotine in the first round and goes to 14-0. He's now undefeated. These guys are looking good, particularly Gabriel. You know, he's undefeated. He's 14-0. Guillotine in the first round. These guys are brothers to look out for. It's always a nice gimmick.
So
when there's
marketable,
stuff
isn't
like
it?
that.
Yeah.
Really marketable, you know. Bonfim, Figlak, Hardwicks, Diaz's. It's all there. It's good. The brother thing is good. And then was there anything? Oh, Jailton Almeida was on the Fight Pass prelims as well. Made really easy work of Abdurakhimov. And at the last, the pre-fight show, I was talking about Jailton and how he's a light for a heavyweight. Like he weighs in at like 220 something, 230 something. He can make light heavyweight. He has done. But he just seems to keep having success at heavyweight. So he stayed there. And dear Lord, he looked amazing. He was fighting a guy that was 30 pounds heavier than him. Abdurakhimov was over 2 stone heavier than him.
That's crazy.
And he was all over him, like picking him up, putting him down, on top of him. Great ground game, looked phenomenal. Like, yeah, like this guy's for real. He's going to have a number next to his name come Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday, so come tomorrow. And I think he's a scary dude. Yeah. And I do wonder if he'll come up short when he fights the elite guys at heavyweight. Like when he's coming up against Corey Anderson, not Corey Anderson, Curtis Blades, sorry, not Corey Anderson. When he's coming up against Curtis Blades, Tommy Aspinall, Cyril Gahn, maybe John Jones, if he's back to kind of top level and all that kind of stuff. Those top guys that are like 250 pounds plus, and they're really good. That's when you go, oh, you might struggle against them. But maybe not. I mean, he looks like an absolute beast. If you don't know Jailton Almeida, start checking him out. He really looks quite scary in that division right now. And we'll see what's next for him. But he looks like he could fight again tomorrow. He absolutely dealt with Abdurakhimov really, really easily. Thiago Moises got a good win against Mequizael Costa. Not sure if I'm saying that name correctly, but he got a rear naked choke in the second round. Called out Paddy.
Of course he did.
I think Paddy's injured, and I don't think anyone wants to see Moises versus Paddy. I'm sure that with Paddy, you either want something a bit more fun or you want high stakes, and Moises is just not really either of those, I don't think. So
No.
I don't think we'll be seeing that.
Paddy's on holiday in Thailand at the moment, by the looks of things.
Right. Well, there you go. So, yeah, I don't know when Paddy's back. I think it was the ankle that he injured in the Jared Gordon fight. So we'll see what's next for Paddy at a later date. And then the only other prelim that I made a big note about was Gregory Rodriguez versus Bruno Ferreira. Ferreira now 10-0. This was his UFC debut. I had not really heard of him before, but Gregory Rodriguez was looking really good.
Yeah.
And Bruno Ferreira 10-0. I think, he's a striker. I think they said he'd been training Taekwondo from the age of or Capoeira, that was it, from the age of 5 or whatever. He caught Gregory Rodriguez with this sneaky left hand. I mean, it was like, he just kind of dipped away and almost stuttered it or something and then just put straight down the pipe. And Rodriguez was out. And it didn't look like it was like a big wind-up. Like, you see some guys come in with these massive overhand rights, and you're like, if that connects, this guy is out. This was just a little boop, and he was just sparked out. It was like the placement of the shot rather than the power of the shot. And when someone does that, you go, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. So we'll have to see. And that middleweight division, I mean, there's a young guys coming up that we think a lot of, but then I was saying that about Imavov and he didn't beat Strickland. So middleweight's one of those divisions where I think if you do all right and get a few wins, you can find yourself ranked very, very quickly. So we'll see what happens with Bruno Ferreira. That is all I've really got.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, what's next? What's the next big event? What we got coming up?
Well, let me look it up. But the next big pay-per-view is Perth.
Yeah.
Makachev Volkanovski, which, oh my goodness. I'm not sure. When is that? Let's look this up. So the next event is Derek Lewis versus Spivak.
Yeah.
Oh, God. What's the date today? This is really interesting conversation for a podcast. What's the date today, guys? Answers on a postcard.
What did you have for breakfast, Blake?
So we've got a week off, I think. I don't think there's any UFC coming up this week. So the week after that, I believe, is Lewis versus Spivak in a heavyweight fight. Sure. I'm a bit like that. I'm there, and there's not really much. Duho Choi is on it. Duho Choi. I love a bit of Duho Choi. There's not a lot on the card to get overly excited about, other than Duho Choi, if you're a Duho Choi fan. There's that. It's not a great card. I'm looking at it and I'm going, it's Lewis versus Spivak. Dan Jung versus Devon Clark. Meh. Blagoy Ivanov versus Marcin Tybura. I mean, a ranked heavyweight fight, sure. But that is it. There's not anyone else with a number next to their name on the whole card. So...
And when's Perth? Is Perth the following week?
Great card. It is somewhere around it. Oh, that's at the April. Then the following week is Perth. So February 12th is Perth. So that'll be a big one. Yeah. And I've just realised it's my wife's birthday weekend and I might be doing stuff and I'm a bit like, oh no. I might not be able to watch those fights until the Monday. Oh. And I'm going to be furious.
Really spoil your weekend, isn't it? Your wife's birthday.
Mate, can't you have been born on a different weekend?
So selfish.
Please. So bad. But yeah, I mean, looking forward to that. That is the one, isn't it? That should be. I mean, just the main event alone.
Yeah.
Makachev Volkanovski. That is.
Had a little face-off yesterday, didn't they?
Did they? I didn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, both had their little straps over their arm and had a little face-off.
Yeah, boy. I mean, I think I'm going Makachev, but Jesus Christ, I would love to see Volk do it.
I've picked Volk. I've picked Volk.
Yeah, I know you have your crazy fucking lightweight prediction. What the fuck? Please go and listen to our predictions episode where we predict the champions. If you haven't listened to it yet, at the end of 2023. I'm not going to ruin it. Stu's lightweight pick just boggles my mind. I don't know what he's on. But then there's Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett in the interim featherweight title fight, which, I'm a bit bittersweet.
Sorry,
Sure,
who's he fighting Arnold Allen?
If it fucking should be, shouldn't it?
Yes,
That's the thing. It's bittersweet. It should have been Arnold Allen, 10-fight win streak. But whatever, they've made Yair Josh Emmett. Will it be a fun fight? Yes. Jack Della Maddalena. Love saying that name.
You love saying that, don't you?
Della Maddalena and Jack Della Maddalena and Jack Della Maddalena. Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena. He's against Randy Brown, who I'm also a fan of. I like him. Jimmy Crute, Alonzo Menafield, Tyson Pedro's on the card. Jamie Malarkey. It's all right. It's about the main. It's about the main event, really. Yeah. It's all about that. It's one of those cards where you go, there will be fun fights on this card for sure. But if you're someone that has to buy the event, what you're buying the event for is that main event. Like the rest of the card, you're like, sure, but that main event is gonna be special. I think. I hope it lives up to it. I hope it's not just like. I hope we see at least like 3 rounds, because there's just a world in which Islam just smushes him in the first round, and I'll be disappointed. I just get 3 rounds out of it.
I just realised we got his name wrong, didn't we? Former guest of the show. God's sake.
Former guest of the show, Alexander Volkanovski. Yes.
What a chat that was.
That was a lovely chat.
Go check that one out if you haven't. Hearing him talk about his newfound celebrity as the UFC champion is one of the funniest conversations we've ever had on this podcast. He's a man of the people. He's definitely as grounded and as down to earth as it gets, and he was an absolute joy. I think we're done. I really need a wee.
We are done.
So
good.
I'm going to sign off from this. Thanks ever so much for listening. Go give us a follow on the socials. We're on all the usual places. We put content up on the daily. If you've not really had a good route around in the archive, then go and do that, because we've had so many guests on. We've mentioned on today's show, we've had Volk on, we've had Jamal Hill on, we've had Paul Craig on, and that's alongside other champions former champions like Tyron Woodley, Michael Bisping.
Michael Bisping mentioned, Dan Hardy, Derek Brunson. There's so many now.
Absolutely.
I just keep forgetting. Molly McCann. Molly McCann, Paddy Pimblett.
Go check out the Mark Goddard episode. The Mark Goddard episode's a real brilliant chat from a very different perspective than what you get from a fighter. I definitely recommend that one. Obviously, we've had Arnold on, Jack Shaw. Blimey, the list goes on. But the best thing you can do is just go and have a look. And to make double sure you don't miss anything, if you subscribe, then they just pop up on your listening device. So do that. And
just flick through the back catalogue. If you're listening on your podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, have a quick flick through. And if any fighter names jump out at you, just listen to that episode, because we have had some corkers, particularly if it's the first time we've had that fighter on. People like Paddy, Molly, Arnold Allen, we've had them all on about 2 or 3 times now or whatever. They're all good chats, but if you really want to know about that fighter, what makes them tick, how their career started off, all that stuff, if you're really into a certain fighter, Michael Bisping as well, go and find the first episode we do with them, and we really get into it with them, and it's a really, really good, in-depth, fun chat. So do that.
Absolutely. And if you don't, if you're not a big fan of podcasts, listening to them on your headphones, we're on YouTube. So you can go and watch all of these chats over there. So go and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you prefer to watch your pods. Right. We're done.
We're done.
Laters.
Bye.